What really hit home for you?
To stop pushing down those beliefs that I had growing up. And when my mum passed away, that feeling of anger and that I'd been duped.
What would it feel like to let go of this belief system that it's too painful for me to believe that there's a God?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what it would feel like when I've lived my whole life feeling it. A bit of a fear as you're going through life when you know that something's coming but you're not sure what it is yet. Am I brave enough to make changes, to see what happens? I'm really passionate about helping people at the very beginning of trying to change, to know that it's quite easy to just let go and relax. We're good at telling other people that sometimes, aren't we? But then when it's your own stuff that's harder, it's why important to have a coach for yourself to help you move through some of this stuff.
So what would it feel like to just let it go and allow yourself to open up to the possibility that maybe there is a God?
Joyful, just relaxing, peaceful, calm.
What benefit is there to you to hold on to it?
Yeah, none.
Welcome to the Always With Me podcast. I'm your host, Fiona Redding, and together we are going to journey into the heart of the human experience through conversations exploring faith, purpose, and our spiritual growth, what it means for us, how it has shaped and transformed us, and what we have discovered, bringing hope and encouragement for you, wherever you find yourself right now and whatever is going on in the world around. This is a show embracing the truth that we are never alone, and that even in our darkest moments, there is a guiding light that leads us home. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Hey, and welcome back to this episode of the Always With Me podcast. Today, I am very happy to be joined on the show by Robyn Cruickshank. So Robyn is a passionate health coach and meditation teacher whose journey to wellness began with a deeply personal transformation. After facing the challenges of breast cancer twice and navigating the stress of a high-pressure career, Robyn found herself on a journey of reinvention and self-discovery, which is where we met, I think, Rob, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. It was where we met.
Yeah, so let's just start there.
Where we met.
So where were you in your life when
At that point when we met, I had just walked away from my busy career. I had said, that's it. I have to leave because I'm going to get sick again. And I just left, and I'd started my own virtual administration business, and you were giving a talk in the group, I remember, and I just thought, oh, I'm aligned to her. And we connected, and I was really right at the start of making big changes in my life then.
And I think what I find so fascinating about that, and I'm sure this is what we'll discuss a little bit today as well, is that you, like, when we are in that position of change or transformation, or whether that's forced upon us or whether that's our own volition, and we're genuinely open, it's like the next step in the pathway is very clearly shown, and there's no ambiguity about that being the right step to take.
No, that's true. There wasn't in me. I just knew I had to change.
Yeah.
I just felt it in every part of my body that this is not, I'm not aligned. I'm not on the right path. I need to change this. And if I don't, I'm just going to keep doing the same thing that I've been doing. And that would have been, I believe, got sick again. I believe I would have got cancer again.
Yeah. So was there a particular, obviously I know you've listened to a couple of episodes of this podcast, and I think this is episode 22, and they're all so different, different. And the way we approach the conversation and where the conversation goes is always very different as well. But I guess for me, the essence of this show is around faith, like what that is. And so does that kind of, obviously you said yes to coming on the show, but does that kind of have any resonance for you? Like when we talk about faith as part of the experience that you've gone through?
Yes, for sure. Because when I listened to some of them, I thought of things back when I first met you and I'd started that. I didn't have any faith, I don't think, in anything. I didn't believe in anything because when I was listening to some of the podcasts, it was quite interesting. I was like, oh, some of them felt like me, sounded like me, but I was brought up like in a strict Catholic family. My mum was, my dad wasn't. Dad used to drive us to church and drop us off and sit in the car and smoke while we all went in and did our churchy business, and did that every week, went to Catholic schools the whole way through. And I was thinking about it. I was like, I still can recite what I had to say when I went to confession. That's how ingrained it was in me. I still can recite what I had to say. And I used to go to confession and I had to make up stuff that I did because I never did anything when I went in. And I still can think about all those things. What a way for a child to grow up like that. But then when I got to early 20s, my mum passed away from cancer. And I went, what the hell? Is there a God? Is that true? How could he have looked after her? And she did all this that we believed was what we were doing was right. And then she got taken away when I was so young. So I just turned off everything then. I believed in nothing. So I had my kids, I had my life, did 20 years of life, probably even more than 20 by the time I got to that age. Yeah, so I had to find what it was that I believed in and what my faith was at that point.
And have you landed on something? Yeah.
I have. I thought about it when I listened to some of the other talks, and I can't relate to a God. I don't say God, and I try and think, why do I find that word funny? I relate to the universe and a greater power and a source out there, and I totally believe in that. I struggle to say the word God or believe in that, and maybe that's still from all that in-depth, all that heavy stuff that we had growing up that I thought it was all, I came to that point, I was like, that was all a joke, what I was told. But I definitely believe in the universe and the power and that there's something there. Yeah.
And what role do you think, obviously you're a meditation teacher, what role do you think meditation might have played in that, that understanding?
Yeah, massive, because that was the first thing I did. So when I left my job and I'd started my VA business to bring me in money, but I started to study to be a meditation teacher. Interesting, isn't it? I wonder why I was drawn to that. I'd been meditating on and off since I was 40. I remember that. So that was like probably 15 years by then, but I didn't really know what I was doing with it. But I was drawn to it. So when I did the teacher training, that had a lot to do with me getting in touch with knowing there was more to me than just my thoughts, that there was my feelings, and that I could sit back and just allow things to be, and the universe would look after me. I'd have to strive to make things happen.
Do you relate to that as a spirit or a soul or anything like that?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I probably think of it as a spirit. And I just knew then, I didn't have to force things. I didn't have to push things to happen.
So you were leaning on that, or leaning into that higher aspect, that higher power.
Yeah, it took a while. It did take me a while to really allow that to happen and to just sit with it and to learn to know how I was feeling and to be able to ask for things.
Like what?
Just to ask for support for myself, just to ask for peace and to, not ask for things, but for that, to just say that I can be peaceful and calm and to be able to ask for those things. Yeah.
It's funny actually, Rob, like when I started the Happiness Hunter, what is happiness? And just the further I'm going along this path, and interestingly, my whole, I get exploration of this also began through the practice of meditation as well, and a deepening connection. And I see definitely the evolution of where things have got to, and that this podcast is actually part of that process of the power of meditation and what that enables to open up within us. But yeah, one of the things that I've really come to understand, like what is happiness and what is a successful life and all of those things. And COVID was a great teacher for me and for all of us as well, I think. really, happiness for me equals inner peace.
Mm.
Because if you're peaceful and calm, then you're able to weather whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then I guess in terms of my faith journey with that is actually, for me, has been a deepening relationship with Christ consciousness and the man who was Jesus Christ, who came to exemplify what that was, and the connection to the source of God, and this deepening understanding of this concept of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, the aspects of divinity. And that was something, honestly, if you had talked to me 10 years ago, I would have said, you are off your rocker. That was all I would have said to you. You are crazy if you think that, or if you think that I would ever think that. I just find it fascinating how we are able to change like that.
It is fascinating, isn't it?
And
I guess,
what is it that's creating that transformation in us? It's not us. It's not our programming that's doing that.
no, it's something there, isn't it? And I guess because I'd been brought up with such strict ideas and of what God was in that religion, I suppose I probably always thought something, didn't I? I'll obviously must have, but then I just shut it all down. And I say that it was all just shut down inside me.
Yeah, because you've been indoctrinated. But I think this is a really important aspect to acknowledge as well, is that those structures and institutions or whatever do serve a purpose in a way, but actually they are also just run and managed by human beings who also do have egos, and that the ego is cunning. It can convince us of anything. And so that is part of the great unlearning as well. And this is something that I just love having these conversations so much. I love them so much, Robyn. But this is, for me, this is where they call it being born again. And it's actually a decision that we make as adults. So as children, we are born into a tradition or a culture or a religious upbringing or whatever, or we're not. Either way, doesn't matter. But we have a childhood. Our program is formed in that childhood based on the experiences that we've had and the interpretation that we're making in our perception of whatever of those experiences. But as adults, we have an opportunity to let go of all of it, to open ourselves up to new ways of thinking. And maybe part of your presence on this show, Rob, is to help you crack that a little bit as well and actually go, am I blocking something because of a program? And that program's doing a very good job of keeping me safe from this environment that I don't want to be in. But what am I closing myself off from by saying, oh, it's only the universe or source, rather than what if I did allow myself to call it God? And what would that potentially open up? And letting go of all of that.
I know, I thought about it when I've listened to some of the other speakers you've had, and I was like, that's interesting. So where I'm at is where I'm at now. And is there further to go?
Always.
Like you just said, yeah, I don't know that, do I?
No. And I think it's that awareness of those limiting beliefs that we have. And so many of us have these kind of blocks and barriers to conversations around faith or God or spirituality. And I am becoming more and more, the further I go along this, that this is part of the reason for this podcast, is to just give people a really safe, non-judgmental space to reflect on these questions for themselves. They don't even have to have conversations with people about it, because they're listening in on other people's.
Yeah, that's right. It is, isn't it? It is.
And I can only speak from that, from my own experience of the inexplicable, not able to be put into words, not able to be communicated in any other way except experienced, of my own kind of transformation. And they call it the renewal of your mind. I'm not doing that. Fiona Redding, is not renewing my mind. I'm willingly allowing a process to happen, but I am doing nothing to that except surrendering and letting go to that process. And maybe
That's right, isn't it?
maybe that's what you've been called here to do, Rob, today.
Maybe. When you just said before about the institutions are run by humans and we all have egos, and that's part of it, isn't it? Us learning to let go of our ego and not holding on to that, and being open to anything, just to seeing what happens.
But and also being aware of those belief systems or those opinions that we've got are also judgments, which we need to let go of. So we're judging the environment that we grew up in, or we're judging the way people behaved, or we're judging the way that they interpreted us and indoctrinated us, and we're angry with them or blaming them or unable to forgive them. That's the whole journey of this. And this is, I'm sure, like, this is what they call the narrow path, right? Because you have to let go of it all. And in the letting go of it all starts to make sense. But you have to let go of it first. It doesn't make sense, and then I'll let go. I have to let go for it to make sense.
Oh my gosh, I say that all the time. I'm like, until you let go of something, the next path's not going to open.
Yeah.
I say that to my clients, I say to people all the time. It's like, well, you're grasping onto that, the next thing's not going to come.
So can you see then, this is obviously not a coaching session or anything like that, but like, as we're having this conversation, can you see how you're holding on to a belief system about God?
Yeah, I can actually. Yeah, from what I've been brought up with. That's why I said to you when I listened, I was like, why can't I say that word? Why can I not align with it?
So what would it feel like for you to say right now, I could imagine myself believing in a benevolent, loving God?
That would be probably really hard for me to say.
Yeah. Like you can't even imagine it. It's not, I didn't even ask you to say, I believe in it. It's like, I could imagine myself believing in a benevolent, loving God, because the God in your mind, when we say the word God, automatically, literally conjures up those images of hell and brimstone for you, right?
It does. Yeah, it does.
The Catholic upbringing.
It does. Have to do some journal work on that.
Yeah, but we can even, if you're open, we can just have that a little explore that a little bit in this conversation, because I'm sure that there'll be a lot of people listening to this episode who God is frightening and terrifying, right? That's actually, it's like you go back to that little girl sitting in the confession going, I've got to make something up, otherwise I'm going to get in trouble because everybody's a sinner and everybody does the wrong thing, which is completely misunderstanding the whole.
It was the whole thing. I used to think all the time, oh, this is silly. I haven't done anything, but I have to go in here and make up something that I've done when I haven't even done anything. But I'm sent there every week to say this.
So think about the resentment that you've got there. Think about the blame, the anger, the whatever. Like when you think back at that time, it will be triggering an emotion in you. And this is what the whole unlearning and allowing yourself to be healed, believing in the healing, right? So you've got to believe in the healing. So you believe in it, but you're still blocking an aspect of it somehow because you're like, no, that equals bad. But that's just the program in your mind.
It isn't it? That's what I'm telling myself.
Yeah. So let's try that again. What would it feel like? What would it feel like to imagine that maybe the people that taught you that did misunderstood it?
Never even thought of it like that. And what was the question? What would it feel like?
What would it feel like imagining if the people, how would you feel towards those people if it was just something that they'd misguidedly misunderstood, but there was no malicious or evil intent to that? And they were just sharing what they'd been taught.
That's a different way to look at it. I could think of it that way. I would have to meditate on that a bit and do some forgiveness work on that, I think. Yeah. To let that go.
Yeah. But this is the work we have to do everywhere. This is just another belief system that you have.
And it's probably one that I still push aside, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's too painful to have to deal with it, and the ego doesn't want to deal with it. But it's like somehow here we are having this conversation. Everything happens for a reason at the perfect time. There's obviously something in you that is ready to let this go. And it's like, I don't even know how to do it, because every time I think about it, it's too hard. I let it go. And this is what we do. We suppress it all the time, right?
Yeah. So it's something that you have to, I don't know how to let it go, Fiona. That's truthful.
Okay, let's start with something that you think about, a boss that you've worked with before, or something that you actually hated, or a neighbor, or someone else. How did you let it go for them? What was the process you went through with that?
Probably forgiveness. Because when you're forgiving them, it's not making it okay, but you're allowing yourself to let it go, aren't you?
So forgiveness is nothing to do with anyone else. None of anything.
No, it's for me, isn't it?
Is anything to do with anything else.
No.
So you holding on to this, let's call it, I don't even know what the word to use it. Let's just say grudge, for a better word. That's the word that came into my mind. I'm not saying that you're being grudgy, but it's like there was a child who was deeply resentful for this whole thing. And you've said that. It's like, I've got to go. And Dad's sitting out in the car smoking, and we go through
Got to go to church.
Got to go to this church, and I don't really understand it. And all they do is make me feel bad. I'm not connected with the spirit or the essence of any of this. It's all internal. It's an intellectual activity that has no heart or soul to it. Okay. Now, other people may have had a different experience. It's not about that. This is about Rob's experience in that environment, right? Which was an uninspiring, unfulfilling environment to be in. So every time you hear the word God, some people hypnotize and they click the fingers and stuff. It's like immediately.
I go to that church.
You go to that church. So why would you want to go there? Because that's ridiculous. But this is the lesson for all of us. The thing is not the thing. This is just a way of you getting to see how you hold on to things, and it's an opportunity for you to practice letting go, because it's not attachment to any of it.
No.
But there is so much attachment to it, and this is the thing for so many people with this subject around faith and spirituality and religion. It's so loaded, and so much anger and what have you there. What would it feel like to just let it go?
It would feel freeing inside me to not have that thought in there.
Because the forgiveness is like just setting yourself free. Those people don't care that you're still angry with them.
No.
Who's the
I wonder how many of those are even still involved in the church in that way. Probably not many.
No. Do you know what I mean? But there'll be others and what have you. But the only thing that matters is your relationship to it. So that blocking, that memory, or that suppressing or whatever, is all it's doing is possibly, maybe not, but maybe it's, what is that blocking? What is that preventing from materializing or manifesting or opening up by holding on to that and going, you know what, not going that way, it's all rubbish.
It's preventing my path still, isn't it? Instead of my path being clear and open, it's a bit rocky and twisty and turny still, because there's still those things there.
And we talk around it, and we talk about the universe, or we talk about source, or we talk about, and it's, that's okay. I can comfortably, and this is a bit of what they talk about, the new agey stuff, right? Because it's talking around the whole thing. Why can't we just talk about the thing? What's so frightening about that? I'm not.
That's it.
Sorry.
No, that's an interesting question, isn't it, though? Because it is for lots of people, isn't it?
It's terrifying. It was for me too. Like, I was terrified about doing this podcast, like really scared. I'm like, but I was like, I was being pushed. There was no way I couldn't not do it. And I'm like, I've just got to trust this process, that I'm going to go out and talk about God and Jesus and my faith and different religions and different spiritualities, and potentially have challenging conversations with people, potentially be publicly crucified, lose work, you lose friends. And there was no option but for me to move forward with that. But what's happened to my own faith as a result of doing that is priceless.
Is it?
Yep. Because it's becoming more and more real and more true. And I'm having these conversations with people and getting another perspective of things. And even this one is so powerful, because I'm like, yeah, I can really relate to what you're saying, Rob. And I talked about the universe for a long time. And then I got corrected in a way by a woman called Ruth. And she just said, They're not the same thing. And I didn't understand that for a long time.
No.
It's the universe has a cause. Right?
Yeah.
But we don't want to go there. We'll just go. I'm happy to go to this point here, but no further.
But I'm not going to go any further than that.
But you want to explore your meditation further. You want to go further in your meditation. You want to have a richer, more loving, compassionate, fulfilling experience of life. You have to go there. It's like we're contained still.
We are.
This is my comfort zone, not prepared to talk about it. So if you think about, and that I think is the really important thing to do when we are really got these really challenging beliefs that are like, how do I cross that? Because for me to talk about God means I've got to deal with all of this childhood stuff. So maybe you don't. Like, why can't you just say they were misguided people who genuinely thought they were doing the right thing? How many times have I been misguided in my life thinking I was doing the right thing? A million. Would I like to be punished for that for the rest of my life? And you're the only person who's been punished by your wanting to punish.
That's true. I've never thought of it as that I'm punishing them. I just, like you said, I'm just here and I just block it out. It's that block still. And it was interesting. That's what came up when I listened to one of your podcasts. I can't remember which one it was. And somebody was talking about, did they talk about God? And I said, yeah, well, I can't. And I thought, listening to that, it's like, I can't say I believe in God, because that just doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, but it does mean something to you. It does. It means hell and brimstone and sitting in a confessional.
Yeah, true. Actually, I hadn't thought about it that way.
And this is what we do. We dismiss it and go, no, it's nothing doesn't mean anything. It's, yeah, no, it actually does. Because if it didn't mean anything to you, you'd be able to say the word.
Yeah, true. True. Wouldn't cut it off so quickly, would we? Yeah. Interesting. You're giving me lots of food for thought.
Oh, that's good. But
in the podcast.
It's really good. And this will be helping a lot of people too, Rob, this conversation. In fact, it's even helping me too, to actually just go, this is just a process for change. Like, it is honestly universal. It's like we catch ourselves, we go, there's a belief system here. Is this belief system serving me? Yes or no? Okay, is it serving me to, like, catching that awareness of, I don't feel comfortable in this environment, or I don't feel comfortable saying that word, or I don't feel comfortable when somebody gives me a compliment, or I don't feel comfortable asking for money, or I don't feel comfortable saying the word God, or I don't feel comfortable when I've got to stay up past 10 o'clock or whatever. Doesn't really matter.
No, they're all beliefs, aren't they?
All beliefs.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that, about my religion and about God, even though I work with people, so I talk to them about all of this stuff all of the time, and your mindset and changing it.
We can't see what we can't see, right? We're all completely closed off to our own programs. And this is why conversations like this are so helpful. This is why it is helpful to work with a coach or a mentor or some kind of accountability, or a teacher or a guide or whatever, because they do help us see things in a different perspective that we're not able to see for ourselves because our program won't let us.
No. And I'm sure, like you said, I'm sure there's lots of people like me, especially my generation, and maybe, I don't know, maybe a bit younger than me, but it was really our way of life when we were brought up back in the 60s and 70s, the way it was.
And lots of ticking and flicking, right?
Yeah.
And keeping up with the Joneses, and that real societal expectation of, this is the way we do things around here. But it's people going through motions.
No, see, look at the way I looked at it when my mum got sick. And then I went, if that was a God, he wouldn't have done that. Because that was my belief, being brought up thinking if you went to church and you believed and you did all the good things, then bad things wouldn't happen to you. That's how I thought.
And there's a lot of judgment in that, right?
Isn't there? Massive. Yeah. I don't know that I've ever really gone there that much. I don't know that I've really ever thought about it too much at all, actually, about still having those thoughts and those feelings. I just know that I decided that after, as I went through, I'm like, I believe that there's something there. It's not that I just believe I'm just this one person in life, living life, and we're all just living life next to each other, and there's no greater force, or like, I realized then there was something else.
And so if I said something to you like, what would it feel like to you to develop a deep and intimate relationship with that?
I'd say that would be really nice to feel that. To not have that icky feeling inside me when I think about it.
So maybe now we could just ask that deep and icky feeling can be taken from me now.
And that's all we have to do, isn't it, really?
Yeah. But who are we handing that over to?
To me, I'd have to say the universe then.
Yeah. Which you are, but there's a distance to that relationship. So we've just got to let go into it. There's no, there's this barrier that cannot be crossed by the mind.
Interesting. It's interesting. How did you said that you yourself, you couldn't have imagined, did you say 10 years ago, thinking about God and talking about like you do now? What changed for you then?
So there was a few things that happened, Rob, and I don't know if these things are ever quite linear and you could say it was this and it was this, but there was a few moments where I felt a deepening into it. So obviously I started meditating, and then I started studying with my teacher, and that really opened up a lot of stuff, starting to learn metaphysics and just a lot of, not even really anything that can be talked about, to be honest. So then there was this one day where I was like, I need to go and buy a cross and a Bible. Honestly, I was like, what? And anyway, so I went up to the local shopping centre, and I just went to the bookshop and I bought a Bible and I bought this cross, and I knew I had this vision in my head of what it needed to be. It was just a little silver thing, right? It was planted in my head, and I found it straight away. It was just, so then I started wearing that, and that was very challenging for the people around me. Like, it's so challenging, really challenging. Some people would talk to me about it. Some people wouldn't. Everyone would look at it. But I think it was just like I had to come out in some way. It's not, so much of this stuff, Robyn, is not, there's no logic to it in a way. It's just what it has to happen. But then, like, I do videos and all that. I'm wearing a cross in a public environment, right? And so it's obvious to people that I believe in Jesus. I have to, because I'm wearing a cross. So that was a start. But I still wouldn't talk about Jesus. I would talk about God, right? Because I still was developing my relationship with Jesus and that understanding of what that was. I think that there's moments of awakenings to it, but then you get taken on quite a journey, right? It's like you have to, it's so hard to put into words. It's like you have to learn how to carry your cross, right? In faith, with a loving, open, compassionate, kind heart, and to be able to be forgiving and let stuff go and to accept and all of that, right? It's such a process of letting stuff go for that to happen. And then there's been several other experiences over the years. And then there was one, I watched a documentary, and then I had to do a post the next day with this picture that I'd seen on this documentary, which was, I don't know if you ever saw that post. It was a post of Jesus with his heart coming out. And that was like, I was like, do I really have to post this? And it's, you have to post this. And I'm like, okay. So then I had to write about it. And of course that touches people, it reaches people, it connects with people, and people can unfollow. It's just not a big deal. But I'm not making this to create waves or ripples or create antagonism or anything. It's literally something I just have to do. There is a reason. Don't know why I have to share this, and that's okay. So all of these things that I would do just started to really solidify my faith and the trust in it all as well, and that nothing bad can happen to me. Like with this, even if something bad happens, it's not bad. And there was just this more and more where I was just not able to deny it. Like, I wasn't even denying it. It was just becoming more and more of me, like who I am. And that has to be expressed. If I'm talking about mindset, if I'm talking about walking or journaling, I've got to start talk more about prayer, because that's such a big part of it. And then just before I launched this show, I had a conversation with my kids, and both of them were like, you're a wacko, and you're this and that and the other. And I just was like, okay, my kids think I'm absolutely crazy. They think I'm nuts, but I still can't deny my faith. I still can't, but there is nothing they can say to me that is going to change the way I feel about this. Like, it was a really moment where I'm like, I am unswayable on this. And then I went to this, sorry?
Not just going to say it's who you are.
Yeah, like, you can't convince me of something different. It's not even something I can debate with you. Like, it's just, that's what I believe. You can believe what you want to believe, but I'm not here to convince you, and you're not here to convince me. It's just this, you can't convince me another way. And I remember years ago, and I've read books and stuff over the years and stuff, and there was, I don't know, I read this book called The Case for Christ by this guy called Lee Stone, I think it was, and that was really good. And that was basically his wife. He was a legal journalist or something like that, and his wife had found God, and he basically went on a mission to prove she was wrong, right? That's when he started. Yep. By the end of this book, converted. Because the evidence of Jesus's existence cannot actually be disputed, right? That he was a person who lived, and that the Bible's still in existence 2,000 years later. And you look at all the spiritual texts, the truth never changes, Rob. So I was just getting all of this understandings of things that before, God, bullshit, it's all rubbish, religion, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, the evidence isn't stacking up as I'm looking now. Like, what I'm seeing, what I'm finding actually disputes a lot of those old belief systems. So they just don't stand up in the face of this information. And then I went to this networking lunch. It was Positive Women. It was run by like a radio station. And I was so scratchy before I went to this thing, and I was really struggling. It was after I'd had this conversation with my kids, and I knew I was on the breakthrough of something when you're right on the edge. Anyway, I went to this thing and I was so scratchy, and I spilt food down my top, and it was that kind of day. Anyway, this girl got up, Lisa came up and talked, and I'm hoping she's going to come on this show actually. And she just talked, she really just talked about a situation she'd been in, and something about what she said, it really hit me. Anyway, I went up to her afterwards just to say thank you. Anyway, she grabbed my hand, and I just said to her, I just went up and said, I just need to say thank you. And then I said, I'm actually going to cry. And she grabbed my hand, and the next thing I know, I was actually bawling my eyes out, and she put her arms around me. She just held me, and I just cried and sobbed. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And she goes, it's okay. I said, oh my gosh, it's just, and this relief of this whole thing. And then the next day was when I had the idea for this podcast. And it was like, I've been needing to do something like this, but just did not have the courage. And it was like, there is no way, I have to share this, and to have the power of her being up on stage just talking about her experience. And I'm like, that helped me. It helped unblock something in me, and that's all I need to do. I don't need to worry about how it's going to be received or what people think. So I think along the way there's just been these quite significant events where it's just, I've been like, I can't deny this. I just have to do this, and I have to follow this, and I have to do whatever. And I get so much, I don't want to say guidance, because I think that can be a bit misused and overused, but I just know the next step to take is the only way I can explain it. And that often happens when I'm writing.
Does it?
I'll get an idea for something, and I'm like, it just whooshes out of me.
Yeah, I'm actually probably very similar to that too. If I write, if I'm feeling, or I'm not sure what I'm feeling, so if I journal, I will come through with some answers. So from this talk today, I would probably ask myself some questions when I'm journaling.
Can I ask what questions you might ask yourself?
I don't know actually yet. I would probably ask myself, what are my beliefs? What's holding? I probably would need to write a bit about my beliefs of what I've talked about that are still there.
And accepting that they'll
that
always...
I thought weren't there, but they still are because I'm still talking about them.
Yeah, even though I just don't give it any attention and it's not there anymore. But that's the hidden stuff, right? It's hidden.
Well, it is there because I can feel, you feel it. You can feel it in your body when people are talking about it or something comes up. So if I'm feeling it, then it's still there. If I'm having some sort of reaction to it, aren't I? Like your reaction that day when you broke down, there was something building inside you, so it's there.
Yeah. And interestingly, like when later on I was talking to someone about it and I said, oh, it was so much resistance. And then what came back to me was actually it was rebelling. So it wasn't resistance, it was rebelling. It's like, no, I don't want to, it's like almost having a hissy fit. Oh, I don't want to do that. So you have to, this is your next step. You have to take this step. And interestingly too, with this whole thing as well, is that honestly, I put this post up going, I've had this idea. And I'm like, it's going to take a lot of courage for me to do this, not just from me, but from the people that are going to come on this show. It's going to take courage. And I posted it and I felt this like whoosh of love coming back at me. And I was like, I've got to pay attention to that too. People were really encouraging me. I didn't give any details because I was like, they're so sketchy for me at the moment. But I'm like, I'm about to do something that's actually going to take a lot of courage for me to do. And people like, go for it, and And then there was a couple of things that happened with it where I was really indecisive. One was with the cover art and one was with the music. And I was like, oh, I don't know if it's this one or this one. And I spent, I don't know, maybe weeks on that, maybe not weeks, but certainly days, like really. And then I ended up choosing the first picture that was created and I ended up choosing the first song I found, right, that I thought would be okay. And I'm like, I've got to learn to trust myself, right? So it's a big lesson for me in just trusting it. And then I had Helen Tudor on and I messaged her the next day and I said, hey, I was out walking and I messaged her while I was walking and I said, I'm thinking about calling this episode Let Go and Let God. Would that be okay with you? Again, is it okay for me to use God in the title of a friggin' episode, right? And she comes back and she goes, that's my favorite thing to say. And I'm like, and I messaged her back and I go, this has just got to trust myself. Seriously, I have to just trust myself. So there's deepening trust for me through this process as well. And so how could that not reinforce your faith? Like how could that not strengthen your faith when these things happen? But there's got to be a willingness to go there. And it's maybe if you can just imagine without having to go, I'm going to go there, what would it feel like maybe to not have that thought anymore? What would it feel like to not be affected by that thought anymore?
That's a better way to say it.
That's all you got to, that's where you have to start. Meet yourself 100% where you're at. And you just go, this is where I'm at. I can't accept that I would ever be able to relate to God. Okay, that's where I am. Accept that. But what would it feel like to maybe imagine that I wouldn't feel like that anymore? So you just can ease your way into it. You don't have to go from here to here. You're never going to go from 0 to 100.
No.
But you just take the first little step and then the next little step and then the next little step. And so like as I said, when I started this, I thought it was a side project. I thought I was going, it's just a side project. I'm going to keep going with everything here. No, then everything
changed and evolved.
Everything in my entire life. Like one of my kids got really sick. I wasn't able to work. All this stuff happened. And then I was just like, I'm not doing any of that anymore. I'm just starting a fresh start. And it was like everything now is being built on a completely different foundation. And it's not that the Always With Me podcast is at the core, but the essence of it is. And I'm going into corporate and they can look me up online and they can see I've got a spiritual podcast and I'm a meditator and I do business stuff and I do this. They can see the whole thing. The whole picture's available now. And that there's a level of confidence for me now that I'm not hiding any aspect of me anymore.
So being you. And you're authentically you and you can see that everywhere.
Yeah, but there's not even any like ego. It's probably there is 100% ego with that, but it's just I'm different. I am different in it. It's not about me in a way.
No, but like you said, isn't it? That's a whole journey. It's been a whole journey for you to get there, and that's what it is for all of us, isn't it? And some of us might be ready. Some of us might be able to, like you said, there's no stopping, you just got to do it. And other people will still stay at that stuck spot and keep staying there.
Yeah, because they're afraid. But what are we so afraid of? Because God is love. What are we so afraid of to accept that and to want a relationship with that? Like, why don't we?
No, it's all in our mindset, isn't it? In our beliefs. Yeah.
Which don't want us to experience that, because
No.
then we're free of the prison of the self-imposed prison that we've created for ourselves through our
That's
belief
right.
system.
Yeah, that's right, isn't it?
And so being able to see that maybe there's another way of thinking about it.
There is, definitely. There is. I'll do some journaling, and I don't even have to say I'll have to do something now because we've had the conversation. So things just come inside now.
They do. And the seeds have been
When you
planted.
start to talk about it and it comes past that, just, oh, it's in there, push that away. Then you're moving to a different place then because you're talking about it. So it's more real, isn't it?
And I think it's bringing, to me, this is the path to enlightenment, right? Because it's bringing what's in the dark to the light. Like it's shining a light on our hidden aspects.
That's right.
And from that, we can choose to change them because we can see them. They're in the light.
That's
we might not like looking at them, but at least we can look at them now.
And once you do that, you feel so much freer, don't you? Like you said, when you got to that point and then you decided on the podcast, so you feel freer because you're doing what you believe in, what's right for you.
And things open up. And I think I really just want to seriously, clearly make this point. It doesn't mean that the challenges go away. In fact, in some ways, they get harder.
Very true.
I'm excited to see what's going to open up for you after this conversation, Rob.
That will be interesting, won't it?
What do you have a general sense of or feel for at the moment?
Maybe what you just said, a bit of a fear of that when like you probably even said it, like when you're on, as you're going through life and different things happen. So when you're on that precipice of a next change, you know that something's coming, but you're not sure what it is yet. So you're just on the edge.
Gripping on for dear life.
Like, do I go there? What's coming next? Am I brave enough to make some changes to see what happens?
And what would it feel like, Rob, to just let go then?
Oh, it feels good when you do. Each step along my way has been so freeing and so finding myself and my voice and being myself, just to be myself.
Okay, so close your eyes. What would it feel like right now to just let go and allow yourself to open up to the possibility that maybe there is a God?
I guess it would feel just relaxing, peaceful, calm.
Okay, close your eyes again. What would it feel like to continue to hold on to the fact that there isn't a God?
I guess still then you have that little bit of tightness. For me, that's what I feel, a bit of a tightness in me.
So what would it feel like if that tightness wasn't there anymore?
Would feel freeing and happiness and joy.
So what would it feel like to just let it go?
Joyful.
What benefit is there to you to hold on to it?
Yeah, none.
Then what's the worst thing that could possibly happen if you let go of it?
The worst thing is still staying stuck like that. And the best thing would be feeling joy.
And letting go, we just have to let go. There's nothing else to do. It's just a decision.
It is, isn't it?
It's nothing more than that.
No. Do you know what it changes to? It changes all of that, probably the talk in your head that you even think you're not doing, but we probably are doing.
100%. And it's going at such a low level.
Mm.
And maybe if I had asked you a year ago to come on this show, Robyn, you would have said no.
Yeah, maybe. I probably mightn't have been ready.
Wouldn't have been ready. And there's been people that I have asked and they're not ready. And maybe they never will be, and that's okay as well. There's no ever any pressure. If I ask people to come on this show, there is no pressure. Just I get the tap on the shoulder, ask this person, okay, I can come on, then I cannot. It's okay. Either way.
They say yes or no.
Yeah.
I think when you think about it, it takes away a lot of that. It would take away a lot of that, like you said, that low level talking in your head that perhaps we do that we're not even realizing we're doing.
So what would it feel like to just let go of that belief that you have about God? And you don't have to even install a new belief in.
No, you don't have to. Just letting go of that one. That would be amazing to let go of that one.
And that's all it is. So what would it feel like to let go of this belief system that I don't believe in there as a God? Or it's too painful for me to believe that there's a God. Or there's just explore those. I'm really angry.
I was just going to say, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what it would feel like when I've lived my whole life feeling it.
Yeah. But we've lived our whole life feeling everything, Rob. And you've changed. Look at all the changes you've already made. And
massive changes.
So this is, to me, and the only thing I can speak from here, Robyn, is my experience, right? That is the only thing I can speak from here. But to me, it's you've done all of these things, and this is just the next stage of that evolution to really open up to those higher levels of consciousness. We have to let go of the lower frequency thinking.
The lower frequency shit.
Yeah. And this, to me, is holding on to this big bag of bullshit, right?
Yeah.
About what your belief system is. Let's not look at it as being God. Let's just label it anything. And just removing the thing is not the thing. The thing we think is the thing is never the thing. This is just something that you're choosing to hold on to keep you stuck or not moving forward. What would it feel like to let this bag, what would it feel like to just put this bag down on the ground and keep walking?
And walk away, yeah.
That's it.
That's a good way to think of it.
It's just a bag you're carrying. What would it feel like to just put it down and move?
I don't have the answers for that, but it'd be interesting for you to touch base with me in 6 months or a year and see where I'm at with it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually going to have Jackie Broman back on the podcast, because when I had her on, she was in the middle of this just void, basically, and she's still in it a little bit. I think she's probably listening to this episode. I said, we'll get you back on and we'll see where you, like, what happens after this. You allowed yourself to move into the void and just be in the void in the space.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
And what comes next for you, because she's just having a massive, sold her legal practice, isn't going back into law. Like, what next? It's been a whole career, right? What's next? Doesn't know. You don't need to know yet. It'll come. But you've got to give it a space. You've got to let go of that thing first. And this is, you need to drop that first. You don't have to make anything new yet. It will come.
And I know that. Hey, I know that. But when we're good at telling other people that sometimes, aren't we?
Yeah.
Like me, I'm good at telling people that, but then when it's your own stuff, sometimes it's harder to, like you said, it's why important to have a coach for yourself, isn't it? To help you move through some of this stuff to find the answers.
Yep. So there you go, Rob. So
interesting.
I'm curious, like, what's your key takeaway that you've taken from today's episode? What is the thing that really hit home for you that was like, oh?
I think probably to stop pushing that feeling down of those beliefs that I had growing up and that I had when my mum passed away, that feeling of anger, and that I probably look at that as though I'd been duped.
Betrayed was the word that came to my mind.
Was it? Yeah, like for my whole childhood up until my 20s. So to maybe look at that and try and do some forgiveness on it in the way that I do with my meditation and see what comes out of that.
Please do keep me posted.
I will. Be interesting, because I'm still on my journey of change and my business now, and the way forward and what I want to do. And I'm passionate about helping others. Always have been. It's just been a little bit of a road to get to where I am now. And it's good.
But to my mind, though, Rob, I think that's what makes you very good at what you do, because you have the lived experience of it, and you can't replicate lived experience. You actually can't.
No. And I know whenever I share my lived experiences with things, I always have much more engagement, more people contact me and people talk to me about it, because it's real. And that's one of my values, and one of my things that I'm really trying to stay with is just to be me, to be authentically me.
Yeah. And this is just a way for you to become more of the truth of who you are. That's all it is. More of the truth of who you are, without all of this stories that you've got going on in the background.
And you reached out for a reason, obviously, and I said yes for a reason. So
always,
because I didn't say yes straight away, did I? I was like, let me listen.
Yeah, and that's okay too. And I probably sent lots of people here's the link to the thing, and I don't hear back, and that's okay. And I don't follow people up. I'm like, if they want to come on, they'll let me know.
Yeah, you're here.
There's no pressure. Okay, so Rob, where is the best place that if anybody would like to reach out and get in touch with you, that they can actually do that?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook as Rebalancer Coaching, and on Instagram, I think I've shared you the links.
Yep.
And I have a website, Rebalancer, that's just called Rebalancer. And you can reach out and chat. And so I do health coaching with women and run Learn to Meditate classes. I'm really passionate about helping people right at the very beginning of that they're wanting to understand about trying to change, and just to calm and quiet their lives, like to help them to know that it's quite easy to just let go and just relax.
Did you hear what you just said then?
What did I say?
You said it's quite easy to just let go. Okay, so you've got a belief system there. You need to lean on that belief system now.
That's right. See, teaching other people.
You've got it. I can lean on the belief system. This is easy to let go. I can imagine it's going to be easy for me just to drop this bundle.
That's a good affirmation. I like that one.
So we've got to use whatever resources and tools we've got at our disposal when we get these awareness of these blocks, because you've got the tools, and it's like now you're sharing those with other people, and we also need to be applying them to absolutely everything, which for you right now is God.
Well, we'll see. We'll be in touch.
I can't wait. I can't wait to hear you go. But it's been such a joy to catch up with you again, Robyn, and thank you for being so open and willing to go there with us.
Yeah, it's been beautiful. I'm glad you reached out, and I'm glad we caught up. It's been really good.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay.
Bye.
Catch you soon. Bye.
As this episode draws to a close, I just want to remind you that you are never alone. If today's episode resonated with you, if you found comfort, hope, or inspiration, I really do invite you to take a moment to reach out. You can connect with The Happiness Hunter on social media or at thehappinesshunter.com. Make sure you subscribe through your favourite podcatcher, leave a rating or a review to help others find this show, or you can simply share this episode with someone who might need to hear these words today. Together, we can spread hope, courage, and the unwavering belief that no matter how dark the night may seem, the light is always there too. Until next time, remember to embrace this light within you and let it guide you. And remember, you are never on your own.